the Real Madrid win was the second win in a row, and it was also the second win in a row with a clean sheet because Liverpool obviously beat Aston Villa. And the performances in both games were significantly better, I thought, than the performances you've seen in the previous weeks. And I know it would probably be premature to say it, but can we say that Liverpool are back to some sort of functioning team? Because it seems very much like Arne Slot has looked to last season and sort of implemented the tactics from last season now in the team now.
Yeah, I don't think it's kind of premature to say that. I think they just look back to the best, and as you say, it's no surprise that they've looked back to the best when they've gone back to basics and doing a lot of the things that they did last season. Obviously, there's been a few changes in the team. There was some new players still in there that are, so he sprinkled a few of those in. But I think he's kind of realised at this point, and if there is one area I would maybe criticise Slot for this season. Like I said, the criticism's been over the top for me, a lot of it. But I think one thing where maybe you would deserve a little criticism is trying to change too much too quickly. Now, I wonder if a lot of that has come from his experiences at Feyenoord, where so many seasons there, he'd have to sell his best players and replace them and just get that team running as quickly as possible. And in a league where Feyenoord would generally have, a massive talent gap to the sides that they were coming up against, you're probably able to do that and probably able to get away with it in games where you're not playing that well. The fact that you've got so much quality on the pitch in comparison to the teams you're playing can allow you to win an awful lot of games, but there just isn't the scope to do that in the Premier League. The moment that you lose 1% from the level of your performance, the sides are there to exploit it. And this is mid-table sides who are facing relegation. They're all capable of doing it. So I think he tried to change too much too quickly because he was trying to implement changes in how the midfield operated. He was trying to put new players in there. It was just too much in one go. And it knocked Liverpool off the stride massively. And I think what you've seen is in the last two games, it's kind of a reversion to the old tactics with a couple of new players sprinkled in, which I think is the way to do it. And you've immediately seen Liverpool's performance levels return to what we saw last season, which is kind of generating 2.5 expected goals, giving up about half an expected goal. That's the level they need to be at really in games. And, they've kind of been in and around that level over the last two games and they've got the results to show for it as well. So that's encouraging. And I think Slot will take that forward now of kind of, let's just move slowly in terms of how we adapt things and how we move forward as a team. And if you do that, I think Liverpool's results should stabilise.
Well, it has been nice to see the differences between the first weeks of the season and also the losses and now these performances because although Liverpool were winning in the early parts of the season, I don't think the performance necessarily matched up to what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. But it's very interesting that Liverpool have managed to keep those clean sheets, as we've said, because Real Madrid and Aston Villa, they haven't exactly targeted Liverpool's weaknesses with second balls and things like that. So I know that, again, it's only a positive thing that Liverpool are winning at the moment. But at the same time, can we really judge this team until they face, for example, I know Sean Dyche's Nottingham Forest are going to be coming up soon after the international break. So do we have to wait until then to really get a grasp on where the team are at?
Yeah, I think it's clearly that weakness is something that Liverpool are going to have to address at some point and going to have to prove that they can, without making changes to the team, it's something that they can show improvement on. But one thing I would say, it is worth mentioning that in this run that Liverpool have had a pretty difficult run of fixtures in that regard. I mean, you think about kind of Manchester United, the most expensively assembled long ball team on the planet, and obviously they have extra motivation coming into Liverpool games, and so that makes that really difficult. And then, of course, I think facing Crystal Palace away from home is a really tricky one, and they can be very direct as well. They're just an excellent team outside of that as well. And then, of course, Brentford are possibly maybe the specialists in the league in terms of this, in terms of the height and the physicality of the team. So it's been a lot of away games in there as well that Liverpool have faced. So it's all kind of added up to make it even more difficult. So the hope is that there aren't that many teams who are that incredible level of being able to do this long ball game. So that should help Liverpool, that maybe they've come through a few of those. And I think when the Forest game comes up soon, that's at Anfield. So again, it'll be harder for them to impose what they want to do on Liverpool. But yeah, it is a weakness that they're going to have to show that they can get past and that they are capable of winning second balls. But I think one thing that encourages you is going back to the old setup now. is that midfield is a lot more compact, looks a bit more capable of winning second balls. I quite like Wirtz being in there as well as someone who can scrap for those, albeit he's not necessarily in deeper positions, but he is capable of winning second balls in midfield. So I think maybe the possibility of Liverpool showing improvement there is there with this setup. But of course, the test will be coming up in terms of that. And Liverpool will just hope they have slightly fewer of those games on the bounce where they have to compete in that way. But there's going to be some coming up, and yeah, we kind of wait and see whether they have recovered from that and have learned really how to deal with that a little bit better. Because, you know, although they've been up against Villa and Real Madrid, and I'm supposed City that is coming up have not really looked to exploit that, there's certainly going to be other teams who are going to try it this season. And, you know, the success in terms of that will maybe dictate how successful this season is for Liverpool.